How's everybody doing today? This is Anthony from the Basement Reef. And if this is your first time tuning into our channel, we're a retail aquatic pet store and houseplant shop located in Columbia, Missouri. And here in this channel, we talk about all sorts of things related to saltwater and freshwater aquariums, as well as caring for houseplants. And today, I am super excited for the video we have to share with you. It's another unboxing video, but this is from a wholesaler that I don't order from terribly often, but when I do, I consider it a real treat, because I'm not even kidding when I say this is my favorite place to order corals from in the whole industry. And that's Tampico Coral Farms. There's a few things that are really awesome about Tampico Coral Farms. That is ran by my buddy Kyle, and the main thing is that these corals are grown in a greenhouse in Oregon. There's some supplemental artificial lighting and stuff like that, but they're under the Oregon sun. Not many people grow corals in greenhouse, so that's pretty wild. On top of that, Kyle's been doing this for a really long time, and as such, he has some corals that he's been growing for equally as long. When I order from there, I'm always amazed that I see some corals that were popular in this hobby 15 years ago that used to be traded around all over the place and I haven't seen for years, but he's been aquaculturing them all along and he has them here. I was originally introduced to Kyle and Tampico Coral Farms when he just simply cold called me at my last job. Somebody in this area of the country had seen his company, seen his corals, and wanted some, and reached out to him. So he was reaching out to local fish stores in the area, and he happened to come across me. And since then, I've ordered plenty from him. We've become friends in real life. He's one of my favorite people in the hobby to reach out to when I have questions about identifying a coral or honestly just anything at all related to the hobby. He's always happy to answer my questions and has some interesting takes on things because, like I said, he's been doing this for quite a long time. In this box, I'm excited because I have a lot of small polyp stony corals, which is something as a store we've been wanting to push more into. Tampico is always good for some nice types of small polyp stony corals. There's a few in here that are some named pieces that if you've been in the hobby for a while, you'll immediately recognize, as well as some really unique ones. And there's a couple of Tampico Coral Farms originals in here. Really cool chalice and really neat zoa, and maybe a couple others that are specifically aquacultured by Tampico Coral Farms. So I'm really, really excited to share what's in this box with you guys. Let's just get right to it. The first thing we're going to do here is simply get into the box and look at every single coral and make sure that everything arrived all right. If any of these bags are punctured or anything like that, we'll want to address those corals first. In this case though, everything arrived just fine. The way these corals are packed is kind of an old school method, but it still works very well. The Fred plugs are pushed into a piece of styrofoam, which floats and protects the coral during shipping. And everything's labeled really well. I'm not going to have any questions about what anything is here, and that's always a bonus. Moving right into our corals, we're going to begin with a nice selection of Acropora. This first one is a blue Acropora austera. This is a staghorn type acro. It's usually found in the Indian Ocean. And to me, they're usually known for kind of a two-tone sort of look. The coral lights tend to have a different color from the base flesh color, and you can see that going on here, where the interior is a much deeper blue than the greenish color that you see on the coral lights. Not the most common acro out there, so a really, really cool one to have in, and a great way to get this SPS collection started. Next up, we have an Acropora aculeus. This is a tabling style Acropora, meaning that it grows out really wide rather than tall branches. This one in particular is purple with some really nice yellow tips. One thing I really like about ordering these acros from Tampico is that Kyle always knows exactly what species these are. Tell me if this is a common experience to you. You walk into a fish store and there's some SPS and you ask the owner what it is and you just get, I don't know, Acropora? Well, here I can tell you exactly what, and that's all thanks to the identification that Kyle has done. Like this Acropora nana, for example. Nanas are some of my favorite Acroporas. They just form these nice little bushes with absolutely evenly spaced branches. Now we have a blue staghorn. You've definitely seen staghorn corals if you've ever seen a natural reef. Just big, huge, long, branching SPS corals. And this one has a really nice blue tips with purple base color to it. It should be a very, very nice acro. Both frags of this blue staghorn came in looking really nice this time. I actually think the second one is my favorite of the two. It has a better shape to it, in my opinion. Next up is a plum crazy sarmentosa. This coral has a long history in the hobby, and when it's fully colored up, it's a deep, deep purple, which is really unique for an Acropora. This one doesn't have the best colors to it, but that's alright. These were grown in a greenhouse and it's been really hot this summer, so it's to be expected that not every single one of these will be in perfect shape, but they're all healthy, and they'll color up in no time here in the store's conditions. The last branching stony coral of this bunch are these pink Milliporas. They're similar to Acroporas, but with some key differences. They have a fairly different shape to their corallites, which you'll quickly come to recognize once you're familiar with them. And they also pass a pretty good sting. So if you put them too close to true Acroporas, you might be in for some trouble. They are quite a bit easier to keep than most acros though. So if you're just getting into small polyp stony corals, this might be a good one to start off with. Now that we're through the Acroporas, we can get started on the Montiporas in this order. First up is a mandarin orange Montipora setosa, and there's nothing like a setosa in the hobby. The way that it kind of is not really branching, not really plating is completely unique and is instantly recognizable. After that is this green Montipora undata. This is a really neat species that has a cool texture, and most specimens are just blue with kind of white polyps to it. So to see this truly green specimen that Kyle has found and aquacultured, absolutely fantastic. This is why we order things from Tampico. Next up are these green plating Montiporas. They're really neat because they have some purple polyps. So once they really settle in later, we'll have to get a good shot of them. Next up is a Montipora that if you've been in the hobby for a while, there's a high likelihood you're familiar with, and that's a purple haze Montipora. The exact species here is unknown, but these guys are found in the Indian Ocean and they've been imported into the hobby for a long time. Just a deep, deep purple encrusting Montipora. Very cool stuff. After that is another coral that's probably not new to very many people, but is very popular for a really good reason, and that's a forest fire Montipora digitata. It's a branching type of Montipora and has bright, bright red polyps on a green base. It creates an awesome contrast, and you won't mistake it for any other sort of Montipora. Again, that's why it's ubiquitous in the hobby. This here is a really neat coral that I haven't seen for years, and that's the Sanjay's Galaxy Astropora. Sanjay almost definitely refers to Sanjay Yoshi, which if you don't know him, he has one of the most stunning reef tanks in the entire hobby. Lots of videos of it on YouTube. Check it out. But anyways, this coral surely dates back to his tank. Years ago, Live Aquaria was culturing them and selling them, but I haven't seen it available in almost as long, so 5-6 years at this point. But it was on the list from Tampico, so I gladly ordered this coral in, and we'll be selling one and saving one to culture a little bit here ourselves and make sure that this coral doesn't disappear again. Now we have a Jason Fox Freak Hair Pavona. If you don't know who Jason Fox is, he's sort of the original basement reefer, the very first guy to start naming some corals, collecting specific ones, and going hardcore into aquaculture. He's famous in this hobby, and for good reason, and this is one of his more famous corals. We'll get into it a little more specifically at the end of the video. And now we're finally getting into the best parts of this order, in my opinion. That being some corals that I really only ever see from Tampico Coral Farms, and a few that are even Tampico Coral Farms signature corals. This first one is an Infusion Pachyceres. A Pachyceres, if you're unfamiliar, is a low light, kind of scrolling coral. And Kyle says that this one gets the best color in the lower light that you keep it. He keeps it underneath his frag rack even. And you can see that these green intrusions on the purple base really makes a cool coral, and you can easily see why it's called an Infusion Pachyceres. That green is really infused into the purple. Our next coral is called an Oregon Twilight Cyphastria, and it's named such because it was traded around the Pacific Northwest for quite some time before Tampico Coral Farms finally went to aquaculture it extensively and started distributing it. After that, we have a very interesting coral called a Party-Gras Palithoa, and its lineage can be directly traced back to reefers in the San Francisco area. But we'll be talking more about this guy specifically later in the video. Now we have the first of our Tampico Coral Farms signature corals. This one is an acid drop zoa, and it'll need some time to open up, but trust me, we'll get some money shots of it, and it's going to be featured heavily at the end of the video too. After that, we have Tampico Coral Farms Ultimate Stunner Chalice. This thing is awesome, just absolutely awesome. The color scheme of it kind of reminds me of what is probably the most famous chalice in the hobby, the Raha Rampage, but it has a totally different growth form. It's completely unique and absolutely awesome. And we finally have one more chalice from them, and this is the Tampico Coral Farms Red Rainbow Chalice. This is just an absolutely beautiful little rainbow chalice piece. I've seen lots similar to it, never one exactly like it though, and this is an awesome, awesome candidate for aquaculture, and I'm glad to see that they're doing it. So now that we've unpacked everything, let's take a good look at the order as a whole, and then go back over some of the specific corals that we wanted to go into more detail on. Here you can maybe see the purple polyps on that green plating one. And the forest fires are looking super polyped out and awesome. In general, all of these Montes and Acros look really great, and they seem to have adjusted to our system almost immediately. Polyps out, good colors, this is good stuff, and I'm excited that it looks like that. Again, here's all the Acroporas too. They're looking pretty good and getting some pretty good polyp extension. Overall, I'm super satisfied with the small polyp stony section of this order. Now we can look at a few of these corals in some more detail. First is the Jason Fox Free Care Pavona. Pavona is a really easy to grow encrusting SPS coral, but the Free Care is unlike any other. These polyps get crazy extension and really look like hair coming off of the coral. It's unlike any other Pavona, and you really gotta see it once they're open. After that, we'll take another look at the Oregon Twilight Cyphastria. Now, most Cyphastria get better colors in lower light, but I had one of these from Kyle a few years ago that I aquacultured extensively and passed around the local area before unfortunately losing access to. But my experience was that high light gets crazy colors. This coral can look even better than this. That brings us back to the Party Gras Palithoas. Like I said, these were originally passed around the San Francisco area years and years ago. They look kind of like a Palithoa grandis, as the big polyps and the coloration. If I had to guess, that probably is the species on it, but there's some key differences here. One is they almost never like to open all the way up. They always stay a little bit closed. I have these in several tanks, and that's been a consistent behavior on them. One thing I can say though is that lower light, these guys are gonna open up bigger. They're a very unique coral, and I'm excited to have this here in the shop. You can see that there's some other polyps growing in around it, and I really want to try and remove those, but that's going to be a delicate operation, because given that this guy is likely a Palithoa grandis, they actually have the highest concentration of palytoxin. So it's going to be a task to do that, and I think we'll probably make that a video all on its own here soon. And now back to that Infusion Pachy series. I really just wanted to show you these guys under a different light that really shows off the contrast and the colors a little more. It's almost like a grafted Montipora or something. I have no idea whether this is a rogue green fluorescent protein infection or not. I lean towards not. It just looks like coloration to me. Either way, this is a very unique coral, and it's super rad. And here's one more look at the Sanjay's Galaxy Acropora. Acropora, if you didn't know, is an encrusting SPS coral, and it can be kind of fussy, and it can look drastically different from one tank to the next. And this piece in particular can go all the way from super dark colored like the frag on the left to super fluorescent like the frag on the right, and everywhere in between. That's kind of where it gets the Galaxy name and look. Super unique, and I'm glad to have it. Now we're finally into the Tampico Coral Farms signature corals. This first one is the Red Rainbow Chalice. What I like about this piece is that it really looks different colors depending on how the light catches it. One way it looks almost completely pink or orange, but then you hold it the other direction and you get some blues and greens. And according to Kyle, it really gets some different colors as it grows out. So I'm excited to see how that goes if it stays here in the store. But I really don't think it will for long. Somebody's definitely gonna buy that. This one is the Tampico Coral Farms Ultimate Stunner Chalice. According to Kyle, he got this one from Indonesia right when it first opened back up after being closed a few years ago. And when it originally came in, it was a completely brown chalice. He just put it in the corner to let it cook and see what happened, and it just got more and more colorful until it turned into the Ultimate Stunner Chalice. It's an incredible coral. I really like it, and I think whoever gets this one is going to be incredibly happy with it too. And that brings us finally back to the Tampico Coral Farms acid drop zoanthids. These guys apparently came in as a single polyp on a rather boring colony of zoanthids from Florida, and Kyle babied it from there to grow it out and has sold it extensively since. He said he has it in 4 locations to make sure that he never loses it, and I can see why. This is a stunner of a zoa, and I personally have tried growing zoas out from single polyps that I found on wild colonies like that before, and it is easier said than done. I've ended up losing it every single time. So the fact that he's aquacultured these out and has them in mass production is awesome. I'm gonna cut some photos in here too, because they even show off the color far better than the videos ever could. And that takes us to the end of today's video. Thank you so much to anybody who stuck that out and watched all of those corals. I know it was a lot, but I really like that all of these corals have a story, all of these corals have a firm identification, and it's not just an order of random corals that look pretty. There's something to be said about each one of them. And there's something to be said for the fact that Tampico Coral Farms gives these things an honest aquaculture effort. More and more in the industry, people are just flipping maricultured and wild collected pieces. They're moving immediately from whatever the current hot trend is onto the next. But over at Tampico, Kyle doesn't really do that. He's stuck it out and really made a point to keep these corals going, and that means something in the hobby to me. So also, if you end up getting some of these corals from us, make sure to keep that lineage in mind, and if you move these corals along or sell them, let them know where they came from. If you like the corals you see in this video, and you're located near Columbia, Missouri, you can obviously come and buy these here from us at the store. And if you're not located near us and you like these corals, there's still a really good chance you can get corals like this. Tampico doesn't sell directly to the public. Instead, they wholesale to fish stores, but go talk to your local fish store and tell them to check out Tampico Coral Farms. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel. It would help us out a lot.